Imagine this. You're in ancient Athens, right outside the courthouse, a place that probably looked a lot like those classic Greek buildings with the big columns. You bump into two guys deep in conversation. One is Socrates, that philosopher you probably heard about, always asking questions and getting people to think. The other is Euthyphro, a guy who seems confident he knows a lot about being good and righteous. It turns out Socrates is in a bit of trouble. He's been accused of being a bad influence on the city's youth. Euthyphro, on the other hand, is there to prosecute his own father for murder. He claims his dad, a landowner, left a worker tied up in a ditch and the worker died. Euthyphro is certain he's doing the right thing, the pious thing, by taking his dad to court. He sees himself as an expert in these matters, saying his deep understanding is what sets him apart. And so, inevitably, Socrates gets curious. He figures, if Euthyphro is so sure about what's right and wrong, maybe he can teach me a thing or two. Socrates, in his usual way, starts asking questions. He wants to know, what is piety really? What makes something righteous or holy? What makes it good? Euthyphro, full of confidence, throws out his first answer. Piety is doing what I'm doing. Prosecuting wrongdoers, even if it's your own father. But Socrates points out that this is just one example. He wants to know the essence of piety, that special something that makes all righteous actions righteous or good. Imagine asking a kid what a building is and they just start listing famous ones like the Empire State Building or the Eiffel Tower. You'd still be wondering, yeah, but what makes them all buildings? That's what Socrates is after. The blueprint of piety, not just a few examples. Okay, Euthyphro thinks again. Piety, he declares, is what the gods love. This sounds better, right? Doing what the gods approve of. That seems like a good definition of righteousness, or of what is right. But here's the problem. In ancient Greece, they believed in lots of gods. And those gods were always bickering and disagreeing, like a bunch of reality TV stars, to be honest. They fought, they had favorites, they changed their minds, so whose opinion should really count? Socrates helps Euthyphro patch up his definition. Alright, they agree, let's say that what all the gods love is good, and what all the gods hate is bad. And the stuff they disagree on, well, that's just morally neutral. And now we get to the heart of the matter. Socrates asks Euthyphro, do the gods love righteous actions because the actions themselves are righteous? Or are the actions righteous because the gods love them? Think about it for a second. It's like asking, is that song you like popular because it's a genuinely great song? Or is it only great because everyone else likes it? Does its value originate from within the song? Or is it bestowed upon it by external forces, like divine will, or in the case of the song, popular opinion? This is the famous Euthyphro Dilemma. It definitely gets you thinking, doesn't it? Anyway, Euthyphro, guided by Socrates, decides that the gods must love righteous actions because those actions themselves are already righteous. That is, their value is within the action. Makes sense, right? I mean, the gods, being wise and all of that, would recognize what is righteous and approve of it. But wait a minute here. If that's true, then we're back to square one. We still don't know what makes those actions righteous in the first place. So, If righteousness comes before the gods' approval, then there must be some other explanation for it. And that's what Socrates really wanted to know all along. Sadly, Euthyphro, more confused than when he started, gives up and walks away, leaving Socrates and us still pondering these big questions. He might not have found the answers he was looking for, Euthyphro that is, but he was certain that prosecuting his father was the right and pious thing to do nonetheless. Oh well, he must have known something we are missing. Now, if you can spare a moment of your time before concluding, I'd like to briefly discuss the option the dialogue doesn't really explore when it comes to Euthyphro's dilemma. That is the option that things are righteous just because the gods love them. If God's love alone makes something righteous, then morality and being pious seems kind of random, if you will. Some people believe that God is perfectly good, so he wouldn't choose to love bad things. Makes sense. But even then, it still makes you wonder what makes things good or bad in the first place. God could, theoretically, love anything. Even things we think are horrible, like lying or hurting people. And that would suddenly make those things righteous. I mean, imagine God appearing to you one night and telling you to do something you intuitively recognize as terrible. To an innocent person, let's say. And when you ask why, he just says, "Because I said so. And I'm God, so that makes it righteous." That doesn't sound right, does it? It clashes with our basic sense of right and wrong. Most of us feel that there has to be some actions that are just plain wrong, no matter what. It is worth noting that there are different views on this. Some people believe that morality itself does come from God's commands, divine command theory, and they have their own ways of explaining why that doesn't make morality arbitrary. And that's it. The Euthyphro dialogue doesn't give us easy answers, but it does something I argue to be even more important. It teaches us how to think about morality. It shows us the power of asking questions, of digging deeper, of not just accepting things at face value. And the Euthyphro Dilemma, well, to be honest, it's still debated today. These are tough questions to say the least, but thanks to Socrates and Euthyphro, we're better equipped to explore them. And that's a pretty good legacy for a conversation that happened outside a courthouse a couple of thousand years ago.